Okay, so I'm going to do this very quickly because there are certain things that need to be clarified. Okay, when you talk about Black women having certain conversations, you need to understand something. The people that you call OGs stole a lot of work from the Black women who were the originators of these conversations. Now, when you talk about Black women discussing the dangers of the erasure of our womanhood, when you speak of the rainbow community, those conversations did not come from womanism, okay? Those discussions were had within Black radical feminist spaces. So the women that a lot of you call TERFs were saying, well, hey, what happens when you have biological women who are literally erased from certain conversations? They were talking about that in the 60s and the 70s. And now we've gotten to the point where Roe versus Wade has been gutted, which covered all sorts of reproductive rights. So, for those of you who use birth control to manage your periods, right? That's now a state's right, which is very dangerous for you if you live in certain parts of the country. For women such as myself, who deal with heavier than normal menstrual cycles for a longer period of time than the majority of women in this country, it becomes a problem. So for Black women, for women who are Asian and Pacific Islander, that becomes a problem. And even we saw this with a little 10-year-old girl in the Midwest who was the victim of incest. And she was impregnated by a member of her family that was violating her. Her state said, well, she couldn't get an abortion. And she literally had to be taken into custody. And then the physicians in her state had to talk to doctors in another part of the country to be sure that she would not have to carry her abuser's baby. And then when we talk about divestment, in terms of how we use it as Black women in these spaces and where it originated, those women have been completely erased. Okay, a Black woman named Lisa Vasquez coined the term divestment as we used it and gave it a definition. And there were several other Black women that had conversations around that in their blog posts and in their books. Whether you're talking about Khadijah, Evia, Isadora Storm, others, you also had Black women like Karen. Okay? And most of the original Black women divestors on social media left the space because they were uncomfortable with the fact that divestment was being merged with swirling. And they also were not comfortable with the fact that you had older Black women promoting things that would not be beneficial in the long term to younger Black women. Okay? If you're a Black woman that is older than 40, it's a problem to have a platform where you are promoting sex work to younger Black women. Okay? For those of you who are engaged in sex work, it has a shelf life. So The women who have been successful in that have done it for a short period of time, and they have taken the money and used it to invest in themselves elsewhere. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but it's not beneficial to you in the long run. And the other thing that the disgruntleds are now trying to say is that all you have to do is look good. But let me tell you something. As someone who has been involved in screening people for jobs, when your resume is in a pile of hundreds of other resumes, we don't know how you look. What we know is your qualifications, your ability to do the job. Okay? And we don't know how you look until we interview you, but you don't get the interview unless your qualifications lead the pack. Now, there are certain fields where you don't need a 4-year degree. But there are certain fields where they are literally almost begging for people, whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's STEM in general, they're literally begging for people. Divestment was always intended to be the quote unquote talented 10th amongst Black women. For those of you who are so hung up on history, right? You're so hung up on suggesting that we don't know our position in this world as Black women, which is also laughable. The OGs of divestment always told us, hey, as Black women, we cannot operate as a collective. We have no system of government that was created for us to protect us. We have nothing in place to protect us. We have no law enforcement. We have no military. We don't have a group of men who care enough about us to protect us. So it's in our interest to think individually. Who loves you? Who loves you enough as a woman to want to care for you and protect you? And why care about an overall group who does not give a fuck about you? Nothing in that means that if you are a Black woman who has kids, you can't care about them. That argument is so disingenuous. That argument is so fake. And Black women who want you to come to spaces where you show your face and you are openly protesting do not care about you. Protests don't work. Petitions don't work. Black women who were in the original social clubs, the Black women social clubs, who were the first women in this country to say that women needed the right to vote, were not out there protesting. They used their social and political connections to make that argument, and ultimately it benefited all women in this country. The origins of divestment came from Black women saying, hey, you ultimately have to do what is best for you. Of course, you want to look your best, but ultimately, looking good is not going to be enough. As a Black woman in a society where you do not have a collective group of men who is going to protect you, and like I said, you don't have a system of government, a legal system, or a military that's going to back you up to protect you, you have to show that your qualifications mean that you're the best person for this job. So that may mean that you have to get some skills beyond your high school diploma. That may mean that if you're going to get a 4-year degree, that you have to get it in a field that is in high demand. If you get your degree in a field that is not in high demand, you have to make sure that your skills are transferable. That's a known thing. Any Black woman that tells you that those skills are not important, they don't care about you. Any successful sex worker has gotten to the point where they don't do that shit for a long time. Because if you look at men who are wealthy and they have money, ultimately they partner with women who are successful, whether they are actively working or whether they are women who are highly educated. You can look at anyone. Whether you're talking about Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, hell, you can even look at Sean Diddy Combs and his latest baby mama, right? That Asian girl. That girl is highly educated. Why? Because in his social circle, the men around him are not dealing with the young Miamis. They're dealing with women who are successful and highly educated. Even if you look at Jeff Bezos, his ex-wife and the woman he's about to marry, they are women who are successful. They have accomplished things. That's just the reality. So those women, some of them have the looks, but what gets you in the door prior to what anyone knows what you look like is the qualifications. And a lot of the Black women who were the OGs of divestment left this space because they were not comfortable with the fact that you had Black women saying, well, all you have to do is use your pussy as power. Because see, your pussy means nothing if everyone can access it. If everyone can pay a fee to access you, then at a certain point, it doesn't mean anything. And then if you're applying for a job in the real world, right, from someone who has actually screened resumes and determined who is eligible for an interview and who is not, we don't know what you look like. We don't know your race. We don't know whether you're pretty or ugly. We decide whether or not you get an interview based on your qualifications. Do you have the experience and do you have the education? We don't know what you look like when we do the initial screen. We don't know what you look like until you get to the point where we decide we want to get you to a final interview. So I'm not telling you what to do with yourself in your personal life. But what I am saying is that divestment is not the space to promote certain things. Sex work has a shelf life, but having qualifications and skills along with looks gets you far. And all of these people who are telling you otherwise are problematic. Hey, baby, hold on, let me make sure that you're, hold on. The sound is probably going to be really fucked up right now, but hold on. Oh. Hold on. Okay. Okay, there you go. I wanted to make you a mod. But yeah, I'm really concerned about some of the things that are being said, just like overall, by like these people who hate divestors, right? Because let me be clear, there are people that I hire on a regular basis who make a lot of money, and they are not people who have college degrees, but they have skills beyond high school. Skills to where they could not work for a few years and pick up a job if they wanted to. And I'm not telling you that you can't be a sex worker, but what I am saying is that as a woman of a particular age, I would be fucked up to tell you that that is something that you could do forever and consistently make money, because it's not. It's not. And it's not ideal. And a lot of the original women in BWE and divestment literally left the space because they were not comfortable with the fact that Black women were being steered away from forms of education that could be beneficial to us, and they were not comfortable with the fact that divestment was being linked to the promotion of sex work. There's nothing wrong with having sex and liking sex. But if I, right? So if I, at 41 years old, looked at a younger woman and said, oh, well, this is something you could do and make money for the rest of your life, I would be fucked up as hell. If I didn't tell you, hey, you need to have something else where you could always get up and get a job or have your own business, right? Because you have a lot of people who have skills and credentials and they go into consulting. And you can do it and you can work from home, okay? I don't leave my house to work. I'm not the kind of person who can get up from the house and leave. Like, my guy friend is here right now because I don't get up from the house and leave. So he drove me around and he's asleep right now. Mind your business. But I don't do that. I literally do not mostly leave my house. The only time I really leave my house is if I want to run general errands, right? Because you have to get groceries or whatever. And then for my parents. And then, you know, if I want to see my nieces and my nephew. But outside of that, I don't fucking leave the house. I don't have to. And it's gotten to the point now where even my brother has a very lucrative job where he does not have to work, because I told him a few years ago, well, hey, you don't have to leave the fucking house to have a fucking job and make money. And my little cousin, I told her the same thing. So you can work and make money and do it in ways where you can always have a job. But when we talk about divestment and its original meaning, it was about Black women putting ourselves in a situation where we positioned ourselves to always be good. With a man, without a man, whatever. But also, original divestment talked about the fact that a lot of Black women only prefer Black men because we are nurtured into that, right? So we are taught to do that. We're taught to do that. But then they had conversations about, okay, take away everything you were taught. If you're looking at a guy and how he looks and how he treats you, and you think about what you actually prefer, the majority of Black women would probably prefer men who are not Black. Those conversations were had. And those conversations were had long before the swirling handbook. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. And I hope you all understand that. And I hope you get it beyond the bullshit that happens on social media. Right? I hope you all understand that there were Black women discussing these things and trying to tell us these things. And some of those Black women, unfortunately, just got to the point where they said, fuck it, because their work was copied so much that they just left. And they don't owe it to us to leave their work here. They don't. But there's a conversation to be had about the fact that you have so many people trying to bastardize divestment. And I understand that a lot of these anti-divested girls are simply mimicking what we say, right? So they're trying to say that they're the original divestors versus like us. And that shit is laughable. Because they have attacked Black women who literally have done nothing to them. They're attacking those of you who are pursuing things beyond a high school education. They're attacking Black women who are divested for no fucking reason. And I'm just telling you, whether you pursue an education beyond high school or not, as a middle-aged Black woman who has screened resumes for people applying to jobs, when people don't know what you look like, when we don't know anything about you, and we're just looking at a resume, we're literally looking at your qualifications and your skills. Your qualifications and your skills get you in the door. So if we have a job and 200 people apply for the job, we might take the top 10 resumes from that position. And those top 10 are based on your skills, your qualifications, and your education. And we look at those top 10, and then the top 5 get interviewed. If the interviews go well, those are the people who get selected. If the interviews don't go well or they decide not to accept the position, then the other 5 get selected. So before we know what you look like, before we know that you're, fat, whatever, we look at your qualifications. And the other thing that I'm just going to say, and I'm going to put this right here, is that you have certain Black women who have been supported, and they were colorists. They were promoting themselves in abusive situations. They were talking shit about divestors, and those women were supported. Literally, they were supported. Okay, so hold on. Let me say this right here. Y'all supported the fuck shit. And I feel like the only reason that you all are upset right now is because you had fallouts behind the scene. But you supported these bitches, and you knew these bitches had sons that they were supporting. You knew these bitches were lying about their lives. You knew these bitches were lying, right, about Black women such as myself, but you supported them anyway. You supported them. So now when y'all fall out, I don't care. I just sit back and laugh at y'all. When you anti-divestors, anti-BW, whatever, when you fall out, it makes me laugh. Because all of you supported these women who literally hijacked the work of Black women who were in original BWE and divestment 15 years ago. Lisa coined the term divestment in terms of Black women 15 fucking years ago. Karen, Harvard educated Karen, talked about escaping Blackistan 15 or 14 years ago. And talked about the importance of Black women understanding that it's okay for us to recognize that we are individuals. It's not in our benefit to operate as a collective. We do not have the base to do that. We don't have it. The very women that you try to do that with will be the ones to do you in. You had Black women in Black radical feminist spaces having these conversations. Divestment does not come from womanism. If you have studied the history of womanism, womanism has been bastardized. Womanism includes everybody, including men who live as women. Womanism has been bastardized to include women who are not Black. There's no fucking way that divestment can be connected to womanism. Black radical feminism talked about, okay, Black women, we need to understand we're not protected, all this other shit. And we need to understand that we have to operate as individuals. Every other group of women does that. Every other group of women understands to do what's best for you. The original Black women in divestment even addressed the conversation about Black women who prefer Black men. And pretty much they chalked it up to the nurture versus nature argument, right? So you have nature, right? So there are some things in people that is just innate for us to do. It's just our nature. But the OGs of divestment suggested that Black women have been nurtured to prefer Black men, right? So we have been taught to prefer Black men. It's been indoctrinated in us to prefer Black men, even though it's not in our best interest. Those conversations have been had. It's been done. So what's going on now is you have a lot of people trying to think that they can dismantle divestment because they don't understand where it came from. And then this whole thing about we don't understand who we are as Black women. That shit is fucking insulting. Because those conversations were also had within the origins of divestment. We very much understand, right, that we deal with gender discrimination as women. And then there's an added layer of gender discrimination as being a Black woman. because we are in a unique situation, because basically we are stateless women. We have no military, we have no law enforcement, we have no system of government to protect us, and we have no collective group of men to protect us. So it's in our best interest as Black women, as individuals, to align ourselves with a man who loves us enough to do that. The conversations about Black women and acclimating ourselves to dating other races of men came from divestment. Before the swirling manual came out, a divester wrote a book about dating other races of men. All of that came from divestors. Divestors were talking about, being in relationships and marriages with men who run and operate systems of government. All of that shit came from divestors. But you're talking to bitches who don't understand where the fuck this shit came from. You're talking to these raggedy ass bitches, right? Who don't know where it fucking came from. And then they try to come for divested Black women. And notice, they attack the same 3 or 4 channels. And then they attack by proxy those of us who support the Black women on those channels, because they don't know where the fuck the conversations came from. They don't know. And so we are not anti-swirling, but the line needs to be very clear. Divested Black women are Black women who very much understand our position in this world, but we also understand that it is not in our interest to give a fuck about a collective that does not give a damn about us. So at the end of the day, do what is best for you in your life. And that is going to mean not dealing with Black men. It's going to mean not caring about race relations, not making decisions based on that. It's going to mean leaving these people the fuck behind. Because listen, I'm in Virginia. That lady that got shot in the chest by that 6-year-old little black, listen, that little black little naker, okay, lost her job. She's not going to get the $40 million that she asked for, okay? Most of the time in Virginia, there's a cap on what you can get in a lawsuit. The most she can get is $100,000. But she turned down the workers' comp, so she might not get that. Okay, so these little unruly ass kids, these little raggedy ass, unraised ass kids from these little raggedy, rotten ass bitches and these dirty ass niggas are raising kids that can fuck you up, right? And you're not going to get shit for it. So why the fuck would you be around them? Fuck these people and fuck their kids, okay? Fuck these little kids that will fucking shoot you in the chest and will fucking try to kill you, and there will be nothing done about it. Fuck them. It is not your responsibility to care about other people's kids, okay? These kids have moms, dads, grandparents, aunts, uncles. Let their families care about their kids. It's not your fucking responsibility. So just like I come on here and tell y'all, okay, I have my parents, I have my siblings, I have my nieces, and I have my nephew. It ain't y'all job to give a fuck about them, okay? And when you see, listen, let me tell you something. When you see these Black people and they have families that don't give a fuck about them, it's a reason for it. Do not waste your time having sympathy for people who do not care about you. Fuck these people, fuck their kids, and fuck their families, because they will shoot you and kill you and rob you and not give a fuck about it. Do what is best for you. And as a Black woman, that's going to mean leaving these motherfuckers behind. Okay? Leaving these motherfuckers behind and not giving a fuck about what happens. Okay? Now, the originators of divestment did not say it like that, but I'm saying it like that. Fuck these people and fuck whatever they're going through. Because these people will take you out and not give a fuck about the aftermath. The origins of divestment taught us that. And your position in this world as a Black woman is not going to be elevated doing fuck shit. It's just not. And it is fuck shit to be 30-plus-year-old promoting sex work and teaching classes about that. Who the fuck needs a class, right? Who needs a class about fucking a man? Fucking a man and getting money for it. Nobody needs a class about that shit. If a man likes you enough, listen, if a man likes you enough, you'll never want for anything. But who the fuck needs a class about that? Any woman who is 40 or older and is promoting that as the only way for you as a Black woman doesn't care about you. There are so many ways to make money out here, and you can earn an honest living, whether it's your own business or jobs. You just got to do it in the right field. STEM, that's the best way to go. That's the best way to go. Anyway, I'm going to get off right here right now because I have to wake up in a few hours and handle some shit for some people work-wise and their leaves and shit. But fuck these people. Fuck these people who are telling you bullshit. Okay? You can be 60, 70 years old. If you have a skill, people will pay you for it. But if there's a man out there who cares about you enough, you won't have to be out here doing fuck shit like promoting sex work at old ages. That's young big shit. And any woman who cares about you will tell you it's not ideal and it has a fucking shelf life. And if you do it, don't attach your real name or your real life to that. Okay? Anyway, happy Wednesday. Excuse me. It's Thursday. Happy Friday Eve. We'll talk soon. Okay? Bye.